everybody, it's Sarah, and it is once again that time of year where I talk about all the series on my shelves, both the finished as well as the unfinished, which is today's video, which will be once again quite a journey because there's quite a few series that I have to get through. So let's get a few things out of the way first. The series that I will talk about in this video are, first of all, DNFs. Both DNFs where I decided to keep the books that I have read, as well as DNFs where I have decided to unhaul the books. That's also why I have my laptop here, by the way, because I do keep those books in my spreadsheet until the end of the year, so I remember which books I unhauled and which series I DNF'd. Then I will talk about series that I'm caught up on, and I will also talk about series where I have not yet read all published books in that series. And the last thing left to say before we can jump right into it, this is basically a snapshot of my reading. Next week it might well be that I will already have finished some of those books, because I do have the last books in some of these on the way to me in the next few days. So, you know, it's a snapshot. It's as of right now, these are the unfinished series on my shelves. So let's start with DNFs. I currently have 9 series where I either have DNF series on my shelves where I decided to keep the books that I have read so far, or series that I decided to DNF and unhaul during the year. I keep all of those series on my spreadsheet because I think I mentioned it already. I need the reminder which series I DNF'd, otherwise I would forget about those. And so probably at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of 2022, I will delete my unhauled DNFs from my spreadsheet. That's also why at the beginning of last year, even though I have plenty more DNFs from last year, from before that, I only had 5 DNFs because there were only 5 series that I had on my shelves at the beginning of the year that I had DNF'd. But yeah, let's start with the series that I have unhauled. Also, I forgot if I mentioned it already because I have started this video a few times already. But if you see weird light from below me, like onto my face, it's my laptop with my spreadsheet open, so that I remember which books I already talked about. But yeah, let's start with the Unhauled series, 2 of which I still have in my flat, but they're no longer on my shelves. And as soon as books aren't on my shelves anymore, they're unhauled because I intend to get rid of them. I just always wait for my unhaul video at the beginning of the year. So first I have The Trials of Apollo by Rick Riordan. I read the first 2 books. I reread the first book and read the second book for the first time this year. I had already had this on a DNF list previously, but more tentatively. And oops, sorry. Where was I? Well, anyway, now I decided to fully commit to DNFing this and also unhauling the series, because I gotta be honest, while I enjoy them well enough while I'm reading the books, I just never find myself motivated to pick up the next book, and I just decided that life's too short to read series like that, and so I'm going to DNF it. Then next, similarly, I have The Scholomance by Naomi Novik. I read the first book, A Deadly Education, last year, and I enjoyed it well enough, but I just don't find myself interested whatsoever to pick up the second book. And I decided to unhaul it, even though I do pretty much like the cover a lot. I decided to unhaul it because, frankly speaking, I need the shelf space. Then next, if you saw my yearly unhaul video at the beginning of the year, you will probably know that I unhauled The Children of Blood and Bone, so I don't intend to finish the Orisha series. I feel like this was one of the first, like, hyped YA series by a black author and with a black cast and inspired by, you know, African cultures. And so because of that, it got a lot of hype, and I read it, I enjoyed it well enough. But to be honest, I have read so many more interesting books since then, and I've also grown out of YA, or well, not grown out of YA, but I'm not as interested in YA anymore, so I'm just not interested whatsoever in finishing the series. Pretty much only kept it on my shelves because I kind of felt compelled to, so it looks like I have more BIPOC books on my shelves, which is a stupid reason to keep a book on your shelf, basically. And so yeah, DNF this, also unhauled. Then I have the Books of Babel series by Josiah Bancroft, with the first book, which was Senlin Ascends. I just really wasn't a fan of this when I read it. I didn't like the story, I didn't like the story beats, and I am not interested whatsoever in continuing on with the series. It's as basic as that, even though, once again, the cover is really cool. Then next I have the Iskari series by Kristen Ciccarelli, with the first book, I forgot what the first book was called, but you'll see it right here. This one is a similar deal to Scholomance and The Trials of Apollo. I enjoyed it well enough, but there's so many series that I'm really looking forward to continuing on and to finishing that I just, you know, I don't see a point in finishing this, especially since each book is kind of more of a standalone within a spin-off series, like a series of spin-offs. And also it's YA, which again, I'm just not that interested anymore. And I'm actually quite happy that I'm finishing a lot of YA series this year. I think after this year I won't have any YA series left to finish on my shelves, or maybe just one or two. So yeah, that's something that I'm really looking forward to. So next are 4 series that I DNF'd, but where I still decided to keep the books on my shelves because they also work as standalones. First, the book that I don't have currently here. I also didn't have this book last year with me because I lent it to my little sister, and that is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. I'm not sure what the series is called, but yeah, I enjoyed the book. I love the movie way more, which is why I'm not really interested in continuing on with the series. However, since I love this movie so much, I just want to keep a copy on my shelves of the book. I just had a hiccup. Next, I have Mort by Terry Pratchett. This is the first book in the Mort series, which is one of the series within the Discworld universe, series of series, I don't know what you want to call it. Terry Pratchett, I read 2 of his books. I also read The Color of Magic, which I unhauled. And Terry Pratchett's writing style is just not for me. It's a bit too much veering towards absurdism, so that is pretty much my reason why I'm not interested in continuing on with any of his series. However, this is one of the pretty editions, so I decided to keep this one. Then I have Destiny Kills by Carrie Arthur, which is the second book in the Myth and Magic series. This one is just a duology, and this is one of the few books that I decided to keep from Carrie Arthur, which I cannot remember why. So it might be once I'm lacking space once again that this will be unhauled. But it's basically about dragon shape changers, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I might not remember correctly actually. And lastly, I have the Robert Langdon series by Dan Brown. I read Angels and Demons as well as the Da Vinci Code, and I'm not really interested in continuing on reading any of the books in the series. However, when I read both of these, I did really enjoy them, so I decided to just keep them. So next, let's move on to the series that I'm caught up on. Right now, that is 25 series on my shelves. At the beginning of the year, that was 18, so I have added quite a few. And let's get started with the books that I have not added to this year. So I have not read any books in the series this year. I was already caught up on them at the beginning of the year, and I'm still caught up on them now. First, I of course have A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. I have read all 5 of these books. I have The Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss with The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear, as well as the novella The Slow Regard of Silent Things. I have also read all the books in The Band by Nicholas Ames, Kings of the Wild as well as Bloody Rose, although I lent Kings of the Wild to Scylla, so I don't have it with me here right now. I am of course caught up on Era 2 of Mistborn. I have read all 3 books out so far. Also caught up on Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I'm just mentioning this because we do kind of already have a title for the second book, which is Nightblood, and we also kind of know in which year or in which time frame we're supposed to expect the sequel. I'm not gonna be adding Elantris to this list, even though there is a sequel in the plans as well, but it's so far off, I'm not gonna mention it. And then I have also, of course, caught up with the Stonewood Archive. No surprise there. I'm also caught up in the Between Earth and Sky series by Rebecca Roanhorse. There's only 1 book out so far, which is Black Sun. I am caught up on the other series by Anne Bishop. I have read all 8 books, I believe. it is 7 books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes, 7. Because once again, the first book I lent to Scylla. I am caught up on all 7 books in the series. Last year this was still on my finished series pile, but we're supposed to get a new one next March. So yes, now it's on my unfinished series pile. And then the last series that I was already caught up on at the beginning of the year is the Eldest Curses series by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. Only the first 2 books are out so far. Next are the series where I did read books in that series this year, so either a new installment came out or I caught up to those series this year. Either possibility. But first let's continue with Cassandra Clare because we had her before. I of course am caught up on the Lost Hours series. I have read both books that are out so far. Going back to Brandon Sanderson, I am caught up on the Alcatraz series. Even though I don't own the last 2, I have read all 5 of the Alcatraz books that are currently out. And the 6th is very tentatively in the plans. So I just decided to put this series on this pile in this video. I also, of course, have the Skyward series, the 3rd book, Cytonic, which came out recently, also by Brandon Sanderson. And then next, we're moving into the series that I started and caught up on this year. So the other 3 series that I just talked about, I had already started previously to 2021. First, I have a series of novellas, which is The Singing Hills by Nivo. Then I have The Burnt Empire by Ashok K. Banker. I have read the first 2 books that are out so far, and I just love these covers so much. They are so gorgeous. I just love the color scheme on them. I have The Nameless Republic by Sui Davis Okungbowa. Only the first book, Son of the Storm, is out so far. We also only got the first book of The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I think the series is also called The Gilded Ones, and I believe this is going to be a duology, and I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm going to DNF this or not. Gotta be honest. Then I have also read the first book in the Serpent Gates series by A.K. Larkwood, which was The Unspoken Name. I think we're gonna get the second book either in February or March, if I remember correctly. Got a few more just first books. First we have the Radiant Emperor duology. I believe it's only going to be a duology by Shelley Parker Chan, which started with She Who Became the Sun. Then we have the Burning Kingdoms series, not to be confused with the Burnt Empire saga. Both adult high fantasy inspired by South Asian mythology, lore, culture, everything. But we have the Burning Kingdom series by Tasha Suri with the Jasmine Throne. And then finishing out the Sapphic trifecta, we have of course Magic of the Lost with The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. Next I have The Bloodsworn by John Gwynne with The Shadow of the Gods. We recently, like yesterday, I mean for me yesterday, I think for you the day before yesterday, got the cover for the second book, which gotta say, we gotta give it to the cover artist. It looks pretty badass. Then I read the first 4 books in A Chorus of Dragons by Chen Lyons. Once again, I gotta plug my read along, which will start in January if you're interested in also catching up on this series before the 5th book comes out. I will leave the read along info in the description box down below, so go and check it out. We also have The God King Chronicles by Mike Brooks. I read the first 2 books this year and we're gonna get the 3rd book by June, and I'm so excited. This was one of my favorite series so far this year. Well, what am I saying so far? There's only like 2 weeks left. Like I'll get any more favorites. And then a series I forgot that belongs in the pile of already started before this year but had a new book coming out this year and now I'm currently caught up again, is of course Anne Bishop's Black Jewel series, because we did get the Queen's Weapon this year. And this is all falling now. So the last category we have is obviously series I'm not caught up on. And I had hoped to get under 10 by the end of the year, gotta be honest. But I'm currently at 16. I was at 13 at the beginning of the year. I'm probably still gonna finish some of them or catch up on some of the series because we just had a lot of releases at the end of November and beginning of December, okay? And I'm just not caught up on them. So yeah, that's mostly my issue. First, let's start with 2 series that will definitely be in the caught up on category by the end of the year, because I'm currently reading the latest book that is out. First, I have The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman. I have read all 7 books that are out so far. I only have 4 here because the other ones are, once again, with Zilla. And I have started the latest one, which came out a few days ago, The Untold Story, today. It's only a really short book, so I'm sure I'll fly through it in no time. And then also a series where I probably won't fly through the latest book because it's way too much of a chunker, but where I'm also already reading the latest book is The Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. I have read the first 2 books both this year. I started this series this year, and now I'm currently reading the 3rd book, which is The Veiled Throne, and I intend to finish it before December is over. So moving on, I have some series that I have not yet finished, that I have not caught up on, but that I also, I think, haven't read any books in this year. The first I have is the Anita Blake series by Laurel K. Hamilton. I think I have read like 23 out of 28 novels or something. I always forget the exact numbers. I'm not even 100% sure if I really haven't read a book in this series this year, or if the latest book that I read in this series I have read this year. I could look in my spreadsheet, but where's the fun in that? So, the Anita Blake series. Then I have the Chronicles of Ixia with Poison Study. I read this first book last year, didn't continue on in this series. This is one of the few YA series that I'm still interested in continuing on and in possibly finishing. And the series is by Maria V. Snyder. A series that might maybe soon be on my finished shelves is the Camelot Rising series by Kirsten White. I have read the first 2 books, the 3rd one is on its way to me. Maybe I'll get to it before December is over, but in case I won't, I just put it here. The series, I mean, not the novel. Then I have the Shadowfell series by Juliette Marillier. And yeah, this series has been on my shelves for a very long time. It's also one of the few YA series that I'm still kind of somewhat interested in finishing. Then I have 2 more series, which by the end of December, fingers crossed, either might be in the caught up on category or finished video. But the first of those is the Drowning Empire series by Andrea Stewart. I have only read the first book, The Bone Shard Daughter, so far. The Bone Shard Emperor did come out recently. I believe my bookstore has some copies of it. I might get it sometime this week when I'm doing my Christmas shopping. Not sure about that yet though, so we'll see about that. And the same can also be said for Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Gnam. The 3rd book came out recently. It's at my bookstore, supposedly. I might get it while I do my Christmas shopping. Not sure yet. And so the last category I have is series where I have read installments in those series this year. The first I have is The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. I did read the 3rd book this year. I did not get to read the 4th book this year. I wanted to finish the series kind of this year, but yeah, it is what it is. And now on to just some series that I did start this year, but I didn't finish them, obviously. First, I have the Empire Trilogy by Jenny Wirtz and Raymond E. Feist. I have read the first 2 books in this series, really enjoyed the first one. The 2nd was a bit of a letdown, not gonna lie. Still wanna finish it though. I also have the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. I read Jade City. Then I was waiting to start Jade War until Jade Legacy was around the corner, but then I never picked up Jade War. I'm sorry, so I hopefully will finish this series next year. It is a top priority for me. I read the first book in the Tales of the Floating World by J.C. Kang. Did not continue on in this series. Same with The Legends of the Condor Heroes by Jin Young. I read the first book, A Hero Born. I read the first 2 books in the Memoirs by Lady Trent series by Marie Brennan. I do also already own the 3rd one. Also, if you have seen my reading goals video, this is also one of my top priorities for 2022. And then we have 2 last series. The first is the Millennium's Rule series by Trudy Canavan. I read the first book, Thieves Magic, this year after this has been on my shelf for now almost 10 years. I believe this came out in 2013 and that was when I bought it. It came out in 2014, so it's been on my shelf for 7 years. That's a long time. And then I'm also not yet caught up on because the book just won't arrive, and I'm heartbroken about that. The Rook and Rose series by M.A. Carrick, which once again was one of my favorite books so far this year. I cannot stop gushing about it. The second book came out a few days ago and Amazon just won't deliver me my copy because Amazon is obviously stupid. But anyway, that was it for the many unfinished series on my shelves. Tell me in the comments down below, do you have as much of an issue finishing series as I do? Or are you a bit better at that? Do you only start a new series once you have finished another one? Also, if you enjoyed this video, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. All the links to my social media, as well as to my book club, as well as to the mentioned read-along will be linked down below. So go and check those out, and I hope I'll see you very soon. Bye!